Namaskaram, Om Shri Guru Namaha. On behalf of Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation and Vibhavana Foundation, we welcome all of you to Art Café, an evening of conversations on Saint Tyagaraja and Acharya. This is an intimate audience program to discuss and delve deep into the compositions, nuances, and undercurrents of these legendary composers. Art Café was conceived and curated by Srimati Deepa Narayanan Sashindran, Kuchipudi artist and founder of Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation. When Deepa discussed about this project with me, I was more than happy to host this event at our small studio here. This is Studio Swatantra, established by Vibhavana Foundation. Our studio started operating full-fledged only recently due to the pandemic, and this evening is in fact one of the first events being hosted in this space, and I feel truly privileged to have all these inspiring artists as part of the event here today. We are honored and delighted to have with us today two eminent artists who have always inspired and enriched us with their creative excellence and inimitable scholarship. Art Café, featuring Sri Kiran Subramanyam and Dr. Anupama Kylash. And who better than the brilliant Srimati Ramaa Venugopalan as a moderator for this interesting discussion. May I take a couple of minutes to introduce these artists to all of you, please? I know they don't need introduction at all, but let me. Kiran Subramanyam, a name synonymous with intelligence, ambition, passion, and Bharatanatyam. No wonder he is called the icon of Bharatanatyam. His creative intelligence, intense passion, and steadfast commitment saw him growing steadily as an artist, enthralling scores of audiences all over the world. His choreographic works have been lauded for their creative excellence. His institution, Rasika Arts Foundation, has made a mark as one of its kind. Kiran dances with his wife Sandhya, and together they have created waves in the dance circles across the globe. Some notable performances including Pandit Ravi Shankar's magnum opus Ghanashyam, the Hampi Utsav, the Sark Meet, and so on. Kiran's innate affinity for rhythm makes his work breathtaking, vibrant, and dynamic. As a couple, Kiran and Sandhya completed 30 years of dancing and have been awarded the Karnataka Kalashri from the Karnataka Sangeeta Nritya Academy for the year 2014. Other accolades include Nritya Ratna Award from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Coimbatore, Kalavatamsa from Gokulam School of Music, Nritya Nipuna from Karnataka Nritya Kala Parishad, to name a few. Welcome, sir. Dr. Anupama Kylash. She's a senior practitioner of Indian dance and an academic. She has a PhD in dance from the University of Hyderabad and has given over 1,000 performances and lecture demonstrations across 10 countries. She has over 60 paper presentations and workshops to her credit on subjects ranging from aesthetics, poetics, itihasa, kavya, nataka, prabandha, vagyakara literature and imagery in Abhinaya. An author of 2 books on the works of the Telugu Pada poets Acharya and Kshetraya. She is a recipient of scholarships and projects from the Department of Human Resource Development, Ministry of Culture, University Grants Commission and the Central Sangeet Natak Academy. Anupama founded Anubhav Center for Performing Arts and Literature in the year 2000 and has conceived, curated and presented many events under this banner, the most popular being the Thinking Cap series. She is currently serving as a professor for Kuchipudi dance in the University of Silicon Andhra, California, guest faculty and member of the advisory board for the newly launched university Rasa Rishi, affiliated to the Kannada University, Hampi. Welcome, Akka. The moderator for this panel, Ramaa Venugopalan, is an acclaimed and seasoned performer, teacher and practitioner of Bharatanatyam since a little over 3 decades. She holds master's degree in Bharatanatyam and its allied subjects such as Indian philosophy, Indian history and the study of temple architecture. She is also a writer and a facilitator. Her thought-provoking articles on dance have been published in leading art portals and magazines. Her unflinching faith and conviction in the traditional diktat of Bharatanatyam, its versatility and scope has led her to facilitate a series of videos on social media platform to share her reflection on learning, observing and teaching Bharatanatyam, bringing out its depth and rootedness. She has created courses and appreciation talks about Bharatanatyam to a cross-section of students and audiences across various cultural organizations. And it's our privilege to have you here, Akka. Welcome. Over to the panel.
Satgurubhyo Namaha. Srimad Vadiya Charitamrita Mannayarya Pitva Vinaiva Suhata Manurapa Venu Tvam Venkatachalapatériva Bhakti Saram Sri Talapaka Gurudeva Namo Namaste Tyagaraja Guru Vande Nada Sadbhakti Yogina. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, art lovers, dancers, gurus, and everyone who's joining us this evening, online and offline. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be seated first and foremost among such eminent academicians, dancers, and legends. Without much ado, let's get right away into this evening's topic. The topic is really vast, it's versatile and it's extremely deep, but we will try our level best to try and bring out some pearls from this deep ocean and share it with one and all of you. The topic given today is compositions of Sri Acharya and Sri Tyagaraja and its relevance to dance in particular. Both these are very well-known composers. They are saints, they are legends in their own right, and I think generations of musicians and dancers have grown with these compositions. But today's topic specifically tries to find some pathways to find how these compositions permeate into the dance space. We have a few key features that we are going to touch upon. We would hope this to be an interactive session. We are open to question and answers post the discussion from the panelists. And those who are joining us online, please leave us your questions and we will try to take them if time permits. The first pathway we would like to begin with are the key features, the aspects of compositions of both these same poets. I'd like to begin with Anupama, if she can please take us through some salient features of Acharya's compositions. I would like to begin saying, were they really intended for dance? Because his composition is an outpour of bhakti. Was the intention there specifically for dances of that era, or was it that the compositions were so much there that the dancer picked them up? And how relevant it is also to the present scenario of dances, please.
Thank you, Ramaa. So, Acharya chose Padasahitya at a time when it was the Prabandha Yuga in Telugu. So there was no song format. There was nothing called a song format in the Telugu language. You had only Kavya and Prabandha, which is poetry style. So it is first he who chose this. This is also because of two reasons. One, because he was very keen to use the Telugu language to propagate the Vishishtadvaita philosophy and Bhakti as an idea amongst the common people. The second was, it was also the age of the Yakshagana. So this was also going on simultaneously. The 15th century, from the time the Vijayanagara Empire was taking hold, this is the second stage of the Vijayanagara Empire you see here. The Saluva dynasty was ruling. So this Yakshaganam and Dvipada or Manjari Dvipada literature was becoming very popular at that time. So this is semi-performative. It's more like a singing, dancing format like Harikatha. So he used that, that little window to also make literature that is semi-performatic and also the Bhajana Sampradaya, the primary Sankirtana, because when his own grandson Chidanna, when he describes Annamacharya's songs in the book called Annamacharya Charitra, so he says Shrutulai, Shastramulai, Purana, Gadhalai. So he calls it, he says these are Shrutis, these are stories of the Puranas, these are Vedic lore, this is all ancient truths, Upanishadic, Vedantic truths which he has brought out through the medium of Adhyatma and Shingara Padams. So they call them Padam, they also call it Sankirtana. So both formats they have used, and it is not primarily meant for dance as we dance them today. It's not for that solo system of dance that we have today. But I am pretty certain that many of his Utsava Sampradaya Kirtanas would have been picked up by the Devadasis of Tirumala and danced, especially the Pallaki Seva, the Melu Kolupus, and then the Hecharikas and these kind of Utsava Sampradaya songs. They were not just only for singing, they were also meant for dancing. So because he is one poet who is completely attached to the temple and has been only with the temple for most of his life, I'm sure there is the element of dance. But I don't think they're intended for dance as such.
Okay, so you brought in a very pertinent point. So the padam that you're talking about in this context is not the padam that we know right now, the padam Javali connotation. So
no, I think actually this is a big conundrum. It's a hornet's nest actually, which if we open it, we'll all get.
But just to touch upon.
No, what I think padam was not a genre at all. Anything that is a song was a pada. Anything that was a song. You just had Anibadha and Nibadha padas, that's all. There were those which had rhythm, those which didn't have rhythm. That was the only thing. And anything, whether it is an Ashtapadi, whether it is a Sankirtana, whether it's a Kriti, whether it's a Padam, everything is Padasahitya. So they were all called Padams, and we know, I don't want to go to the Tyagaraja, but we also know that he called them Kriti and Kirtana. He used either of the two words.
Right.
So I think this Padam being the erotic lyric, Sankirtana being the devotional lyric, this is all a much later development which we have done for our convenience. But format wise, Chandas wise, there is no difference between a Padam and a Sankirtana or a Padam and a Kirtana.
Yeah, so before I take the talk to Kiran sir, so when he composed these Padams as we call it as, so were they already set in certain ragas and where they sung, was that Sampradaya completely followed by those who adapted it to that dance? And also
we have to work around those imageries and create multiple imageries which are similar to that but which are not just translating the line.
So would you agree that that is a kind of a commonality between both the Tyagaraja and the Annamacharya compositions, where we do have a lot of padas that already explain whatever has to be explained?
Yeah, but she has this significantly about the first she said about the Pallavi part.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is very, very significant what she mentioned.
Right.
Because in other composers you need to go through the entire.
Yes.
You kind of have to work
Exactly.
to
So
find the
Annamacharya
part.
says everything. For example, he says, Talachina dehamu niluvadu, tananu talachino talachudo. So everything
So
is
translate those.
So when I think of him, my I cannot hold still. I don't know whether he thinks of me or not. I have sent my cheli. Will he come or not? All this is declared in the Pallavi.
Ah.
So you know the context as soon as the Pallavi occurs. And then how she remembers, the reminiscences, all this unfolds in the Charanam. So this is a very typically, all Tarlapaka poets or Annamacharya, Tirumalacharya, Chinas, all his son, grandson, they all follow the same technique.
Okay.
So everything is declared in the Pallavi and then the Charanams enhance it.
So
Now this
if
is
one-
a different feature.
So if one does have to pick up these compositions, say let's take a very simple composition of Annamacharya, what would be, your 3 steps, let's say, at least pointers for a practitioner to say, at least give your thought into these 3 salient features when you're picking up an Annamacharya, just out of this.
So one is, I think the Pallavi of Annamacharya is very important. That Pallavi should have the, what you call the doability. I think that is very important for Annamacharya. Then we have to also see, because some Annamacharya songs are very, very not suitable actually to dance, because the Charanams, they meander. They go here, they go there and they come back. But you have to also see very carefully whether the Sahitya Dharma, whether you will be able to maintain that or not.
You kind of find a pathway to
You
come back and
have to
finish.
find a pathway to come back to that.
Yeah.
And another problematic thing with Annamacharya is, even if he is doing, say, Khandita Nayaka, in the third Charanam, he will always unite Venkateshwara and Alamelu Manga. So, if you want to take the Mudra Charanam, which is technically what you should be
What should
doing,
be doing?
then you have to drop the character by the second Charanam and then, become the narrator by the third.
I think they all went out of the box way back then, so we
So-
don't have much to go out
So
now.
this is one problem that you have to keep. Some of them, they fall seamlessly all through the 3 Charanams. So that is one other way of picking, the song to see, okay, can I do the Mudra Charanam without going away from, what I am trying to say, or going away from the plumb line or the central line of what I am trying to say. So I think you have to be very careful, and also you have to see the context of what kind of woman he is describing, especially in his Shringar Sankirtanas, because his my master garu, whom I call him, the one who worked with me, he used to call them Jivanayikas. So he says none of them fit into any classifications per se.
Beautiful.
So they are very human. They're very human. And they're very volatile, the Nayikas of Annamacharya. So you also have to be very careful as to see what you're picking. What kind, does it resonate with you, does it not resonate with you? That is very important, because there's so many shades, so many different shades to the female protagonists in Annamacharya.
That's the same context. I just want to
Yes,
talk
please.
about, very rightly said. Not all compositions are for dance. You should. I know that now it's become more fashionable to think that, why not? How come I cannot dance for this song?
Anything
It's
can
not
be
about.
danced.
It's not about that.
Yes.
See, Exponent Tyagaraja, the way the one word, at the end of the particular this one can change the entire context of what he's talking. So in Tyagaraja you have to study the entire compositions, number one.
Yeah.
Number two is like the mathematics of it is so much in it.
Yes.
You have to know compositions in what chandas, like she said, and what kind of kala pramanam which is happening, and what calculations are coming, because all based on notation. So everything is packed with mathematics in.
So that was actually the next question that I wanted you to touch upon. The laya or the nritta or the calculations, the kanaka in these Tyagaraja compositions, like you rightly said, is so taught. I mean, it's so structured. So one of the common, what can I say, practice or habit for dancers is to pick up a composition and insert jatis. Because we need to do that jati because, for whatever our reasons are. So when one takes a composition like Tyagaraja, whether it is in a swara or in a chitta swara, where there are already inbuilt calculations, and then we are putting our more jatis. So in a sense, we are kind of expanding and to a certain extent distorting the structure of the composition, and when we add in our own jatis, which may or may not relate to the flow of the composition, it does distort. So what are your thoughts
Yes,
on
very nice
that?
question. Laya bhava is there.
Mhm.
Laya is just not just laya, it's bhava also. Okay, number one. Auchityam is very important. When I say auchityam, that's what you're asking me, whether,
Yes, they are.
whether it can be put there or jati, because it says something about laya, you just put a jati there. No, I'm not saying only in Tyagaraja, in most of the dance compositions,
Yes.
I see that just to bring in a nritta aspect, jati is done.
Yeah.
Now, with auchityam is very important. It should not disturb the sthai,
Yes.
number one. Whatever you do,
Yes.
even if you're doing a Shringara Padam, and the sthai is very
This high is
important.
important. Yes.
And maybe there was a time when long back they would do padams or kirtanas in dance for 1 hour, 2 hours, but they needed that break. So they would break into a small vibrant jati, maybe to wake up the audience.
Yeah.
Some-
Now we're
sometimes-
using jati
No,
as
maybe
the
to
main
wake up the
piece.
audience also. They go
Sure.
with the intense Shringara show or Viraha, you show for half an hour and then you leave them, they would have,
True.
you don't know. But
Yeah.
now time is so short, in half an hour we need to show the entire dance, whatever.
Yes.
But it is very important to think the Laya Jnanam, the Thala Jnanam, Laya Bhavam is very important to understand. Because it is, even when dance, Laya as Laya and as, into dance and movements, when we do, what kind of movements suit, what is the tone of the movement, what is the bhava of the movement, all those things have to be considered. Then it gels well with the compositions or, because I don't think, even when I mention about Tyagaraja as being Sangeeta, I think he was a divine, this one where he had that thing in the aspect of Sangeeta in him so much that it just fell in, it was very intuitive. I don't think he sat and wrote notations and wrote, so there was nothing like that. It was a very intuitive thing happening. And he would just sing and go sometimes,
Yeah.
just, create. So it's very important. But yes, when you take such compositions, it's very, very important to understand the composition, number one. It is just not, okay, if the singer is there, he sings, and somebody tells you the calculation, you just put there a set of movements. No. You have to understand the bhava of the song, the entire composition, then intersperse with the right movements, whether it is required or not. Not always jatis are required.
Right.
And
So could you, I'd like to interrupt you there, could you give a few pointers, like, for example, when you create, say for example, if I were to, the first composition that comes to my mind is Nada Tanumanisham. So there is some space there, say for a, I won't say jati, but I would say for a nritta banda, or, how would you, look at the composition? How would you go through the points of where you can use nritta?
See,
how would you use the nritta?
Shiva, when you say Nataraja or Shankara, Nada Tanumanisham, it's automatically understood. It's nritta, predominant. That's what we take it.
Yeah.
Even that also we have to think and do.
Yeah, because he talks about a lot of philosophical connotations in the later part
But
of the
yes, you
book.
can, if you put for example, okay, you want to make it a nritta based item.
Yeah.
Let me come to practical part
Yes,
of it.
yes.
So how do you choose a jati? The syllables of the jati
Yes.
is important. The tone of the jati, the recitation of the jati, the composition of the jati, all those things are important.
And the duration.
And the most important is duration, and the most important, if you see Nada Tanumanisham, it is two aksharam in a Edapur.
Yes. Correct.
You understand what I'm saying? Edapur. I'm sure all our artists who know what is Edapur,
Yes.
two aksharams.
Yes.
So technically in Carnatic music, when you start from Samam, you need to end on the Edapur.
On there, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a theoretically it's a rule.
Yes.
I am not saying it has to be done like that. There are people who finish it earlier and leave
some are,
the
yes.
Edapur to the
Yes.
skies but that's okay. But technically speaking, when you take composition, you take a composition and do a part where Edapur is come. So those times you have to choose the syllable and listen. Maybe I will demonstrate one on small jati when
Yeah.
you ask
That
us
would be good,
to
sir, yeah.
demonstrate on Nadatana Manisha. And also I think like we mentioned for Tyagaraja, the composition Anupama, it is so philosophical. There's no scope for even dramatics there,
That's it.
but we have to create through dance
Yes.
because we have chosen that thing like that. But that is again for 4 aksharams Edapur. Yeah. Now you might ask me why do you need this Edapur? But it's not that I need it. That's the
It's
composition is like
composition.
that. So I have to justify the composition. So my entire process should be that. So what I have done in this composition in Anupama is use the Ramaa and also the Devadastas and do the stuff. So this is how you have to think a little bit and do. It's just not.
Yeah, it's not something you can just pick up.
Yeah.
So one of the common, underlining factor on both the Acharya and Acharya's Adhyatma philosophy. Any of these composers we cannot do away with the philosophy and treat it just like a regular composition where we can do pada, vakya, go around the stage and go away. As much as it has Adhyatma in it, Adhyatma itself, philosophy, is a very deeper, what can I say, it's a deeper study for one's own self. Not just as a dancer, but in the personal level. How, by those who continued it as a sampradaya?
So unfortunately, for some reason unknown to us, like how the Tyagaraja Parampara continued, Annamacharya's Parampara didn't continue, even though he had sons and grandsons who also sang. But after that, we don't know why they disappeared completely.
Right.
So there must have been a methodology because he clearly gives the ragas.
I see, okay.
For all the Telugu compositions, he gives ragas. And for the Sanskrit compositions, he gave raga and tala. But he didn't give the tala for the Telugu compositions. And we also know that he was very much aware of the old Mela Paddhati because he gave the Suladi, the one single Suladi which is attributed to Annamacharya. He has given the ragas as per the old Mela Paddhati. So definitely he knew the whole thing, and as we have evidences even in Annamacharya Charitra and Sankirtana Lakshanam, another composition of his, about his understanding of ragam and talam, but it's only for the Telugu songs that the ragam has been given.
Okay. Sir, I'll take you right over to the Tyagaraja. Here we talk about Annamacharya somewhere around the 14th century, and Tyagaraja was much later, around the 18th century. And of course, anybody who talks about Tyagaraja, one cannot miss out the fact that it is a very taught, a very well-structured sampradaya that is uncompromising in its nature, with the way it is practiced, the way it's sung. I want you to touch upon a few aspects that you have personally resonated with the Tyagaraja compositions and your thoughts on his music and especially in relevance to dance.
First of all, thank you. Just said dance because I am not a scholar like Anupama to quote things, but my experience is only through dance, picking up some compositions of him and working on it. Like Anupama mentioned, I don't think they ever did anything with dance in mind. It was bhakti. He was a Vagayakara, also a Sangeetajna. You know what I'm saying? That's why all the Tyagaraja compositions are notation based. All the ragas are mentioned, and most of the ragas are mentioned. And the bhakti was the main thing even in those compositions, I don't think he sang it just because to create a piece or create a song.
Yes.
It was an expression of his own imagination, could be expressions of his own emotions. That's what when worked with some of the compositions I saw. And like Anupama ji mentioned about Acharya, about Bhakti and Shringara, Tyagaraja I think was predominantly Bhakti, but there was an aspect of subtle Shringara in Naukacharithram, which I'm sure all of you are aware. He composed two musical plays. One is Naukacharithram and one is another Prahalada Bhakti Vijayam, which Prahalada Bhakti Vijayam is a very long, it's a 5-act, it's 45 kritis, the way he mentioned, and 28 ragas or something. And Naukacharithram is a smaller version, which is about 21 kritis.
And often used in dance, some parts of
it. No, actually, I would say Naukacharithram even I think was one of the main attraction because a bit of Shringara is mentioned. But this Shringara is Alankara Shringara. In the sense, it's not, it's predominantly not Shringara, it is only a very quoted one, which leads to Bhakti. See, that is what it is mainly. Other than that, you don't see anywhere in Tyagaraja's compositions about. But one thing is the musical complexity which was there is one thing challenging when you take up a Tyagaraja composition, because you cannot shift because it is all notational space and all fixed, and even the talas and even the intricacies of the rhythm, I want to say, like the adapers and the athitams and all those things, all aspects are there in Tyagaraja Kritis. And the most challenging one, I would say the abstract ones, which are these Pancharatna Kritis, because they are highly philosophical and some of them are very, very high or bhakti. So to bring about the essence of those Sahitya, because the main purpose of using that is that it's not just to show you can dance for a composition, but it will also bring about the essence of that Sahitya or expression of what the poet, it's a very poetic composition. And I remember doing in my journey the first Pancharatna is Sadhinchane, Vidulaka is very, 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 very complex because it talks about music, and and even in the Ramaa, it is the placement of the Sahitya from the time it starts to goes to end of the song is very, very complex. So you need to not only know the composition of Tyagaraja Sahitya, but Tyagaraja Sangeeta also.
Yes.
Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to dance for a dance or production. So I personally I have worked in some compositions. One is Venugopalan I have done. And of course, popularly now all numbers of Tyagaraja can be danced according to the present understanding. But it takes a lot of understanding and study because, of course, I understand dance is a very powerful language by itself. But it is just not to show that you can dance to a composition, but whether it justifies the composition is very important.
Absolutely.
You understand?
So I would like to take a segue a little earlier here because I've had the opportunity to learn and dance Sadhinchane, and personally for me it was extremely difficult because the padas there is an overflow of words. And when we are dancing, we use the hasta, we use the abhinaya, and we need some space before we finish one hasta and move on to something else. Whereas if you take Tyagaraja's compositions, especially the Pancharatna Kritis, they're so taut. They come like a tornado one after the other. As a teacher and as someone who's worked with this, what would you feel, or do you think it is a good idea to take these compositions because, like you said, the intention of the Tyagaraja compositions are of course very deep and very philosophical in nature. But do you think they render themselves to dance? Because it does not have that space. Maybe some, for example, maybe another Tanumanisham or some such compositions which have that space, but maybe not a Pancharatna. Just your thoughts quickly
Yeah, I
on
agree
that.
with you because for dance, the compositions have to be thought with a mind of a dancer also.
Correct.
Because we have our own vocabulary of
Yes.
expression, you
Yes.
know. So these were, like I said, they never ever thought of dance in mind. Unlike some of the compositions of Muthukadu, you know, where
Right.
you see many compositions based on dance, because I'm sure he imagined, dance of Krishna dancing and things like that, or jatis coming in between, you know, those things. Like you said, Sadhanjan, words are so packed that you
Yeah.
don't know whether it becomes like very robotic in sometimes,
Yes.
and you know, changing. And how, another thing is, how much are you reaching the audience is very important. It's not just about you dancing. How much are you carrying it further?
Absolutely.
That is what. So what I would say is, of course we want to use Padartha Vinaya, but I think Vakyartha Vinayas or
Yes.
elaborating on a single pada which has been mentioned there,
Yes.
which has an entire story around it,
Yes.
is where you can develop some of the composition. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I'm not saying that it cannot be danced,
But it doesn't
but it
render
is
itself
not,
very
yes,
easily.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Akka, on the same note, I'd like you to touch a few aspects on how one deals with the Sringara Padams of Annamacharya. Now, in the present scenario, of course, lot of Kshetraya Padams, there are a lot of such Padams and Javalis that are, that are practiced and performed very often. So when one compares that set of compositions to someone like Annamacharya, whose intention, whose purpose, and who belonged to a different sampradaya altogether, like you mentioned, which has a very specific historical context. So when one dancer or a practitioner begins to take an Annamacharya compositions, what do you think will be the salient Abhinaya explorations that one must keep in mind? Could you please touch a few key points on that?
Sure. So, according to me, I think for any kind of Abhinaya exploration of, especially Padasahitya, of that, even whether it's the Telugu Bhagyakaras or anyone, I personally, this is just a personal opinion, I think the 3 C's I call them, the context, content and core. I think these are very important for us because of these, we have, if we don't look at it from that point of view, we will have very superficial arguments as to, like, can we put bhakti here, or should we put only Shringara here, or should we? So this kind of an argument happens when we are looking at a composition not from the point of view of the context. So if a composition, Sarangapani Padam, if it's written for a courtesan, there is no bhakti there.
Correct.
Even if there is a nominal Venugopala mudra there,
Yes.
it is only,
Shringara.
it is Shringara. But if you are looking at an Annamacharya composition, even if it is the most erotic of padams or most erotic of pieces, it is still carrying the Vishishtadvaita philosophy, and there is no doubt about it. So there we can't argue and say this is only Shringara, we cannot put the bhakti element in it, because for Annamacharya, the Nayaka is Venkateshwara and she is Alavelumanga most 99.9% of the time. So I think from that context, if you see it, the style of Annamacharya is very, very different from any of the other Telugu poets, whether it is the Trimurtis or the Trinity, or whether it is his later, Kshetraya, Sarangapani and others. The first thing with Annamacharya is that there is no Anupallavi. During that time was not yet formulated. So the Pallavi tells you everything. Unlike the other, unlike Kshetraya or Tyagaraja, like Kshetraya will simply say, Evi Setune Oyamma. You don't know what is the context. But Annamacharya will tell you everything in the Pallavi, and he will develop those ideas throughout the Charanams. Little by little, lyrically they are very dense. So the dancer has to find the space, like Ramaa said, Because already the lyric is telling you everything, it's giving you all the imageries. So this is the point where we have to rethink or reimagine how to do Padasahityam. I mean, are we going to be Google translators of the words of the text, or are we going to look at the subtext and work on that? I think for Acharya, that is something we seriously need to understand before we even attempt it, because the subtext becomes more important, because if you're simply going on doing the text, then he has already said everything. So we have to understand that literature is one discipline and dance is another discipline. We are not only translating literature, we have to contribute to it through our own medium. So if that has to happen, then subtext of Acharya is very important to understand. Since the imageries are already very, very dense.
Where it talks about Sharanagati. Now, of course, we can do the kastas and, there are a few pathways that can help us. But how do we, as practitioners, as dancers, handle Adhyatma in either of these compositions? Beyond the Padartha, Vakyartha, Laya, what are your thoughts, or should we stay away from them?
No, why should we stay away from
No, just
I don't think we should stay away. I think we can, incorporate it very intelligently. Like, see, it will be very subjective.
Of course.
Because each of us has our own way of looking at it. For Acharya, what I feel, see, whenever I want to bring in the philosophy of Sri Vaishnavism, or even if I want to bring in the typical philosophy followed from Vedanta Desikari, actually right from the Alvars, which have influenced Acharya so much. So there is one composition that I worked on in which I wanted to bring out the aspect of the Para, Vyuha, Vibhava, the Archa, Antaryami and the Archa aspects, all five. So what I did was, because as you said, philosophy as philosophy per se, just giving it like that may not be understood by everyone. So when you ask these 5 questions, in the Artha Panchakam, which talks so philosophically about Vaishnavism, so we also have the thing that these questions are also asked by the Sakhis. So I converted all the 5 questions to 5 Sakhis. And I said that, each Sakhi is trying to address one aspect of it. So that could be one way of introducing it. The other way, in another song, what I did was, all the 16 upacharas that are done, I tried to make them, connect them to the idea of Shringara. Like, for example, the Alavelu Manga says, when you go to him and you show him the Darpanam, you tell him that, if he comes to me, he can see his face in my cheek, or my cheek Darpanam. So you can also make a bridge of the two ideas. Like, there is one composition of Acharya, Emi Sodhyam Vidiyu, which on the face value, when you look at it, looks like complete Sambhoga Shringara. But you just look at that composition a little deeper, you will realize it's a complete Adhyatma composition. So I think we can, if we are a little intelligent, we can insert the Adhyatma elements without, of course, we shouldn't do silly things.
Yes.
Like, for example, something that I've always found very funny is, when people dance Bhoshambo, and he's going on saying Nirguna Parabrahma, and everyone is dancing all the Saguna aspects of Shiva, which I sometimes find very strange.
Yes.
So, such glaring mistakes we should not make, but we should try to see how we can incorporate the ideas, the dose of what the literature is actually intending, through the medium that it is using to intend that. So I think that way we can bring it up.
Yeah, I think this is a very pertinent point you raised, because when we are taking Adhyatmic based compositions across any composer, I think the basic understanding of what is philosophy, what are the tenets of philosophy, the basic definitions of Saguna, Nirguna, because these are the words that are embedded in these compositions very easily.
Not only the basic, I think it is a responsibility of every dancer to know, if you are choosing a certain composer, what is his philosophy.
Yes.
Like, for example, if I chose Pottuluri Veera Brahmam to perform the other day, who is a complete Shaiva Siddha from the Telugu land, and he does not believe in going to Kashi or doing anything, they identify all these within their body. So when he says Vasiga Dharalonu, for example, the word Vasiga Dharalonu is very simple to Telugu words. Vasiga means completely, Dharalonu on this earth. But if you look at the tradition that Potuluri Veerabrahmam follows, Vasi is the breath and Dhara is Mooladhara.
Oh my gosh.
So he says between the breath and the Mooladhara, this whole activity is happening, he's saying.
Oh wow.
But if we don't know his philosophy, Vasika Dharalonu just becomes upon this earth.
Upon this earth. Wonderful. Oh wow.
So everything changes if you don't know the philosophy. He says, basic annu Shivakashi ganunnadi, he says. So he says the middle eye is Shivakashi. So that is their philosophy. The top is Kylasha, this is Shivakashi, the Bhru Madhya is Shivakashi. This is a complete philosophy of the Shaiva Siddhas. I cannot take up that song without being aware of all this. It is not, it's impossible. You should not be then, you're just ruining it.
Ruining it.
Yes.
But Sashindran was right, because it's not one thing, it's not about just any composition. We have to understand from that their
The
point
composition, yes.
first.
Yes.
Your interpretation is only to embellish those things,
Yes.
not to take away the entire
Yes.
meaning, or
Yes.
that's what I feel.
So since you've been, you're training so many students and I'm sure there are a lot of young teachers who are watching us and could you please touch upon a few aspects in your journey as a teacher, how you deal with Adhyatma as a concept when you're imparting not just these kind of compositions but generally. There is always something that is on the outer and then there is an embedded philosophy in many compositions. What would you, if you could share a few of your thoughts as
Just not
pointers for all of
I
us?
agree. Just not Adhyatma, even the normal things like, even if you say Ganesha, Krishna,
Yes.
it's difficult, some children don't even relate.
Yes, and especially now when there are questions like, I'm an atheist, can I dance?
No, that's
so
one
how
thing.
do we deal with...
When you're teaching Shringara and all those things, if you're teaching them, they think it's, the people think it's crazy. Who is going to do all these things,
Yes.
But in reality, they're doing the same thing now.
Yes.
If I ask one of my students if she's going for a party, she will be getting ready for 1 hour.
1 hour, yes.
Okay,
That's right.
she's choosing the right,
Yes.
whatever makeup stuff
Yes,
and
yes.
dress, and I'm sure all of you will. And everyone is doing the same thing.
Yes.
So, now maybe the method of talking to them, I'm
Yes.
not saying teaching,
Yes.
the method of talking to them should change.
Yes.
You should relate with more, the reality-based things
Yes.
and get them there
Yes.
and try to make them experience.
Yes.
Because when I say, look at Krishna, how beautiful, so where are you looking, sir? Where is it Krishna? They ask you such questions.
Yes.
So they don't understand it's an experience you're talking.
Yes.
You're not talking about an object
Yes.
or a person.
Yes.
It's an experience.
Yes.
So it's very difficult now. So I said sometimes for funnily, I say, okay, imagine your boyfriend. Okay, he is the one whom you're talking to.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
No, it's
that's
true.
how it
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
Because they are not able to relate at all.
Yes.
But yeah, there are mature students who understand, who know. Here, what this place, this is the time I say you need to study.
Start. Yes.
Without that, you will not get
Yes.
this one. Because it is just not somebody else teaching you. You need to study.
Yes.
You need to get into the subject.
Yes.
Because that's the only way personally you can relate with it. Because somebody else telling it always becomes an outside. So I strongly believe that we have to study, and Adhyatma is not something which is not there now. It is there in our day-to-day life.
Yes.
Even small things, something didn't work. You want to go out, it just started raining heavily. You just say, oh God, why can't you help me? I mean, how did it come to you, the oh God, why don't you help me?
Yes.
It could be a silly thing that you're saying, I want the rain to stop because I want to go. What is the Adhyatma? That level of Adhyatma is different, I agree.
Yes.
But it is the same Adhyatma we are experiencing.
Yes.
People think we as artists or art by itself is talking something else. It is not something else. It is a sophisticated representation of reality.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Absolutely.
It's a sophisticated representation of reality. Everything we do in art is what we're experiencing now. Okay? So there is no special thing to teach. Only thing you need to bring them, that awareness is there. For that, you need Ekagrata, means now we are so distracted, we don't know which is the one we need to see.
Yes. Yes.
For that, you need to see something.
Yes.
So that's what
Very beautiful. Yes, we
somebody's
are.
indicating like
Yes.
this time.
Yes.
You know,
I think that was my next.
Oh, Ramaa.
Yes. Actually, I think this is a very good point for us to open out the questions.
No,
and things that
we'll just show you a small demo of.
No, and then we could go to the demo, so the
Oh,
demo
okay,
is
okay.
not
Okay, one minute.
stopped.
Okay.
That's-
This
If
one.
that's okay. Yes. Oh yes, absolutely. We have time.
Oh,
It's going to be.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So how would you, since you're anyway speaking about it, how do you view the
See, there are
Ramaa
two
of-
ways I see.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It's my personal view, okay? I don't know for Tyagaraja whether Ramaa was. Sometimes I see that he looked upon Ramaa as the entire, the perspective as God, or sometimes as the Lord, and he became the Naika. I don't know. In the Bhakti, I'm not talking in
yeah.
sense of Shringaram, okay?
Yeah.
I'm talking in terms of merging,
Yes.
this one. But it was a very, the way he looked at Rama is something beyond this one of, the human self or a creation.
Yes.
That's what I feel. Rama was a name or an avatar which, but I think he looked beyond those attributes of Rama. This is my small understanding when I do some compositions.
Yeah.
Like when we try to do I think he looked as Rama as everything about the creator, the preserver. I think he looked him in totality as one. And I somehow felt that there are many times when he merged with Rama, otherwise such things wouldn't have come
Wouldn't have come.
out.
Yeah.
That's
Must
what I
have been,
feel. I mean, it's my personal opinion. I'm not an authority on anything, but this is my personal experience when a little bit of understanding of what I think Tyagaraja's Rama is
Sir,
as.
could you also touch upon, as practitioners of dance, because bhava is so predominant in us. When we are performing, we are so emotional, we are in a very emotionally high state. And when we use compositions, when we practice, when we are thinking about it for a prolonged, they have a kind of an impact on us in some way or the other. Could you touch upon, if you can think of some way in which, if any of these compositions has had some kind of an impact on you, if you would like to share, or maybe a Tyagaraja composition, or for example, Anupama, where...
Or
Yeah.
even Enta Muttu,
Yeah,
Sogasu.
yeah. So what has it given to
My
you as an
ringtone
artist?
on my phone is that, because each time I listen to that, I get very emotional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you said bhava, that experience is so important for us. Okay, when we are doing expression later,
Yes.
experience is very important.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Something
So-
moves you from
Yeah, something moves you, and that is possible when you also are in the same frequency as what you are trying to,
express
and
think about
things
it.
like that.
Yeah.
So I feel for me that experience is more important even when I'm composing something.
Yeah.
It is just not choreographing the word. The commonly used word is choreography now.
Yeah.
I know it's a different
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
Choreography. I feel choreography is much later.
Later, that's
Okay.
it.
Before that, there are a lot of layers which come, and
Yeah.
then choreography comes.
Yes.
Okay. Now the people start with choreography
Choreography.
only and say, I have choreographed, which is good. I like that confidence, and no offense, I like that confidence. But what comes before choreography is very important.
Is it? Yes.
Whether you might use it or not is not.
Yes.
You might not use it now.
Yes.
You might use it 10 years later. But that experience, that before the conceptualization, then getting into the kind of, those things are so important.
Beautiful, yes.
For that, you need to have lots and lots and lots of time.
Time. Yes.
This won't happen I'm going to sit for 1 hour, I'm going to finish this composition. Yeah. What are we going to finish this composition?
Yes.
You don't know.
That's true.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I would, I definitely have to ask you this question, because when Indu read your profile, you have a range of subjects that you have studied and you have worked upon, and as much as it is, it is a reflection of the fact that as a performing artist, you have to have knowledge coming from various resources. At the same time, there is also the concept of how you distill all of it when you become a performer, because you're also an active performer and you teach. So could you, if possible, could you please let us know, how has it worked for you? How do you, at the cost of sounding very cliched, how do you distill all these, and most importantly, how do you decide this cannot come into my performance and this can come into my performance? Because you very rightly said it's important to know what not to do, what not to touch. Like Sir said, where you should not put the nritam, where you should not just put a jati just because you feel like you want to. So could you please share your experience?
Since Deepa wanted us to talk about the Ramaa
Yes,
thing,
please.
I'll just say few lines about it. Because actually she initially meant it to be completely on Ramaa. So so I'll just quickly, while talking about the Ramaa only, I'll answer your question.
Please, yes.
So because Acharya is one poet who has written prolifically on all the major godheads of Vaishnavism. Actually the only poet.
Yes.
So he's written equally on Vishnu as Vishnu, on Rama, on Krishna and on Lord Venkateshwara. All, as well as the minor deities of Vaishnavism also. Minor in the sense, not the Swamis, but like Hanumanta or like Narasimha or any of them. So what is the one special feature of Acharya's Rama is that in all the Sanskrit compositions, he primarily eulogizes him as a hero. Like you will see, Namo Namo Raghukula Nayaka or Ramam Indi Varashyamam.
Yes.
Those kind of songs. And in the Telugu compositions, he brings out a very human side of Rama, which is which I found always very interesting. There is a dialogue between Rama and Lakshmana where Rama says, I think Sita is there, why don't we go till there? And Lakshmana says, what is there? Come, let's go. And then both of them walk and they go there, and he says, I think that is Sita staring at me, from the distance. And Lakshmana says, no, it is the moon. So this kind of very human aspect of Rama being brought out, which Tulsidas brought out later, what I thought was very unique to Acharya, especially in the Telugu poets, because then he has so many songs where he's talking about Rama's viraha, which are almost like ghazals. So he brings out that element. So to come to your question, so this is very interesting about Acharya's Rama, these two elements.
Actually, sorry, I must say, I've been reading the Srimad Valmiki Ramayana, the Moola text, and there is actually this very beautiful sarga where the viraha of Rama, Valmiki has expressed so beautifully that especially when Rama and Lakshmana are walking, you literally have tears because wherever Rama, and that sarga seems to be very long.
Yes.
And at a point I said, Rama, please can you just move out and then go because you have to fight and get her.
No, I think he's very influenced.
He could have been
He's influenced
by
by Valmiki. He's very influenced by Bhagavata Purana in many ways, and also by Potana's Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Telugu Bhagavata Purana also, because Acharya uses a lot of khandam. And that is the Sisapadyam meter that you have in Potana's Bhagavatam, so it's influenced him a lot. So definitely he's influenced by the Mahakavyas and he brings all this out. All these out very beautifully. So to come to your question about how, distant. So I personally think, like for example, I would personally, because I work so much with Acharya and it's so rich in image and motive. For me, I don't think any of us actually create any images. I think it's all there.
It's all there, yes.
It's all there, and my study with Kavya and Prabandha literature has made me understand that there is no motive that doesn't exist.
Yes.
So what I was telling Indu and all in the workshop also is, I think our methodology, how all study of say Alankara Shastra, whether it's Rasamanjari, Shingara Manjari or Bhava Prakasham or any of the texts, or whether it is Prabandha literature or Kavya literature or aesthetics, Rasa, whether it's Abhinav Gupta or Bhattanayaka or any of them,
Yes.
I think a study of all these, if you want to distill the essence, basically we have to understand one thing, I feel as dancers, is that we must stop approaching Abhinaya as items. I think that is something we need to stop. What we need to create is an idea bank. That is what I tell them. Like if you have Madana, everything connected to Madana, whether you have in Kavya literature or Prabandha literature or in aesthetics or even in the Tamil, the Natuvana texts,
Yes.
which you have, all of that, if you can put them all together and create an entire bank of ideas on Madana,
Yes.
then you just, whatever you require for your piece, you will take it out like you take out jewelry from a locker. So I think that was the old methodology
Yes.
of teaching. But today, because of this item-wise thing, we feel it's restricted only to that. So when we say, Vipralambha, Shringara, a study of all these will give you so many variants as to how this can be handled.
Yes.
What are the connotations? If you say Naika or you say Nayaka or you say Sahayaka, it gives you so much
Yes.
material, and then you create these lockers,
Yes.
and then you bring them out and use them in your Abhinaya wherever you think the idea fits. I think that is how they used to dance each padam for 45 minutes and 1 hour.
Absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, if you have that limited view, then you cannot dance your piece for that long. So I think that would be the way I would distill
It's a
it.
very pertinent point. So I
One
think,
last thing I want to
yes.
say. It is just not creating a recipe. It's also you should want to create the ingredients also.
Ingredients.
Now what is happening is in the shop,
Yes.
you bring it. It's
Yes.
over and it's over.
It's over.
There's no more recipe. That's
Yes.
what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what in simple language I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
So it's important to know the recipes also.
Yes.
I mean the ingredients also.
Yeah.
How it's done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. So I think we've pretty much covered the key points that we wanted to discuss. So thank you so much, Akan sir. And quickly we'll open it out to any question and answers with students. Do we have anything online? Can anyone check, please?
Any questions are all but Anupama, because she's the scholar.
Not at
I
all.
am just on only experimental basis now. So all questions
Do we have any online? No, I'll only move it to right to left. Okay, wonderful. So I think there is always the option to take it offline. You can reach out to them via email or we will let you know. Yeah, and then we'll quickly move to the demo. And thank you so much, Aka Sasha. Thank you, sir.
should we move this on?
Yes, I think we'll move to this.
I'm brand Rutta. Okay, that's how they brand me because they think that I'm expert in lyre. No, nothing like that. Just that I have more leaning towards rhythm, and one of the compositions I said Anupama, which starts from after 4 aksharams. How you can create the dramatic element of this particular composition. So what I have done is not a jati, but it's a jati with Ramanamam, in which it adds, it becomes a prelude to the composition. Number one. There are 2 aspects in this. One is the calculation which comes to the edible, 4 aksharams, and also the concept of Puruttam. Puruttam is going with the song. So these 2 things just Tajam, Rama, 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 Tajam, Rama, 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 Tajam, Jam, Tajam, jum 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 Rama 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 jum 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 Rama Jaya Rama jum jum Rama Jaya Rama jum Takajum 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 Rama 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 Takajum 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 Rama 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 Takajum Rama 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 that's all. So that becomes Rama 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 Rama. Good. That is good. That's what is good. Okay. One last one is Naga termination. She mentioned 2 aksharams. We do a jati. Here you can take regular jati, which can be incorporated, but very important to end it on the 2 aksharams. This is just a small demonstration. So like this you can choose whatever you want and accordingly compose this one. I think. Over to Anupama, I think you are one. Of course, we would like. You want a chair?
No, I'll just sit here.
Oh.
Because mine is anyway only going to be a small abhinaya at the thing.
Smartly bifurcated. They said don't touch Abhinaya because she's there.
No,
just kidding.
Actually, you should do Nanupalan for a couple of lines. Please do it.
No, I would have.
No, sir.
I'll tell you something. Do it because these 2 performers should not miss out. Actually, I'm little. I don't remember. I'll do it next time.
2 lines.
We'll do it. First, let her.
No, they have the music and this. So I'll just explain it.
Yeah.
So since we spoke about Tyagaraja and Acharya, so the Rama idea was in my mind. So there is this very unusual composition of Acharya where Sita is talking to Hanuman and she says, Ekkadi Maya Mrugamu, Ela Temmanti Nenu. She says, what is this Maya Mruga? How did I even think that such an animal exists? You know, why did I ask him to bring it? You know, so please tell him that it is my mistake completely. Whatever happened is completely my mistake. Please tell him that. And then she says, Ramudu ennadu Indu vachu. When is he going to come? And is he going to really kill Ravana? And then she says, Ee Mata Hanumanta Nijama idi. Whatever you're saying, is it true? And then she says, Evanil, what does he think? How does he remember me? And how is he? How is he? So it's a very poignant, beautiful piece. And she says, whatever you're telling me, tell me once more. I want to hear. And tell him that this is all my fault. So it's just those few lines. Yeah, you can just read. Yeah, just.
నడచి వచ్చితివో నన్ను పాలింప నడచి వచ్చితివో నా ప్రాణనాథ నా ప్రాణనాథ నన్ను పాలింప నడచి వచ్చితివో నా ప్రాణనాథ
a couple of minutes to introduce Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation. Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation Trust, Bangalore, was envisaged with the intent to propagate and promote the Kuchipudi form of classical dance and allied arts. The foundation is a non-for-profit trust founded in Bangalore by Kuchipudi Exponent, Artistic Director and Life Trustee, Srimati Deepa Narayanan Sashindran. KPF is a recognized institution under prestigious Sangeet Natak Academy, New Delhi, and Kannada Culture, Government of Karnataka. KPF has an empaneled ensemble for festivals of India and abroad under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. It is the only Kuchipudi art institution in Karnataka adhering to the authentic teaching of Padma Bhushan Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam style of Kuchipudi as part of the Guru Parampara. The foundation is offering systematic training for students of Karnataka and other Indian states and globally also for all keen aspirants from countries like USA, Australia, South Korea, Russia, UAE, Europe, the list goes on. Deepa Narayanan Sashindran, the Artistic Director of KPF. Just a few words about her. She's been an Acharya with over 4 decades of experience in Kuchipudi art form. She was part of the Karnataka Kuchipudi Textbook Pioneer Committee under the chairpersonship of her Guru. She's the first artist in Karnataka to perform Kuchipudi Ranga Pravesham under Padma Bhushan Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam style of Kuchipudi under the tutelage of her Guru Manju Bhargavi. She's a thinking artist with creative organizational abilities and has received a lot of accolades for her vivacious dance technique, spellbound performances not only in India but also she was invited in the year 2003 to the first International Kuchipudi Dance Conference as panelist cum performer at Houston, and she has so many global performances to her credit. A few words about Vibhavana Foundation. Vibhavana Foundation was established by Srimati Indu Santhosh, that is me, to create an extraordinary community of artists whose works will impact the evolution and transformation of performing arts field and also engage with and inspire the society. The foundation aims to impart high-quality training in Bharatanatyam and allied disciplines and create platforms for artistic expression, cultural exchange and collaboration. Vibhavana Foundation has curated various performing arts festivals, raised funds for aiding artists and supported various environmental causes as part of the CSR initiatives. We are also currently conducting regular Bharatanatyam classes at government schools in collaboration with C. Krishnaya Chetty and Sons Foundation as part of their CSR initiative. Moving on, we are extremely happy.
Sorry, I'm pausing. Really feel my duty. I don't recognize Ramaa, my student, senior student who has been given me courage, senior student, my daughter Rasika, and thank you Deepa. It was an honor to be sitting next to Anupama and Ramaa. You are such a thinking, intelligent dancer, and it's so nice you aptly chose her as the moderator. And Indu, beautiful place. Maybe we'll have a more longer session. And all the artists, Sridevi ma'am, who's here, and Simaji, all of you, thank you so much, and all the technical people. Thank you, because after we finish, you make it more relevant for us. Thank you so much. Sorry, I paused you guys. And of course, looking forward to these wonderful dancers here.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, we are happy to showcase 2 brilliant dancers who will be presenting compositions of Tyagaraja and Annamacharya. The first dancer for today is Srinivasan. Srinivasan has been into the field of dance for the past 20 years. His acute interest in dance was nurtured under the able guidance of Guru Srimati Shubha Dhananjay. His serious passion and dedication towards the art form molded him to a professional dancer, teacher and choreographer. He has acquired BA degree in choreography from the Natya Institute of Kathak and Choreography, headed by Guru Dr. Maya Rao. He has rendered his service for the Times of India as an NIE consultant, educating and nurturing various young talents in the field of Indian cultural heritage at several esteemed institutions of Bangalore. He is also the artistic director of Sri Natya Shala, training many passionate students. He has performed in various prestigious cultural festivals all over India and abroad. He has also had the privilege of working for all the leading choreographers in India. He is one among the unique, vibrant male dancers troupe called Tandava, the Vibrants. He has the credit of performing a unique solo dance presentation, Tandava Lasya, featuring both masculine and feminine aspects of dance. He is associated with the Ramana Mahashri Center for Learning from a very young age, performing lead roles in their productions. Since music is also his serious interest, he is pursuing his vocal lessons as well. Other than dance, he is also trained in martial art forms like Thanta of Manipur, Chow of Orissa, and Kalaripaite of Kerala. He is an A-grade artist of the Doordarshan Bangalore and has a credit of working for various school projects, choreographing thematic presentations. Over to Srinivasan.
This evening, I'll be presenting two compositions of Saint Tyagaraja. The first one being Entanine Varninchuno Shabari Bhakyamu in Raga Mukhari, and the second composition Karuna Jalade Dasharate in Raga Nadanama Kriya. These compositions, the first one is rendered by Shri Aditya Narayanan, and the second one is rendered by Shri O.S. Arun. I present to you compositions of Saint Tyagaraja.
Shabari Bhagamandanine Varnintunu Shabari Bhagamandanine Varnintunu Shabari Bhagamandanine Shabari Bhagamandanine Varnintunu 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 Shabari సెవించి కమ్మని పరములను సగి కనులార సెవించి కమ్మని పరములను సగిదను పులకరించి పాదయుగములను కులపతి సముఖం పునరవేతిరహిత కులపతి సముఖం పునరవేతిరహిత పరమును పొందిన
करुणा जलधे दाशरथे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे कमनीयनन सुगुण निधे कमनीयनन सुगुण निधे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे निमय मेघा निलग्नु निमय मेघा निलग्नु ये मनी ने भूलो ये मनी ने करुणा जलधे दाशरथे कमनीयनन सुगुण निधे करुणा जलधे निज दासुल अनुभवं ఒకటి నిజ దాసుల అనుభవం ఒకటి నిన్ను తెలియని జనమతము ఒకటి నిన్ను తెలియని జనమతము ఒకటి दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे వలచుచున్నామము సేయుదులే వలచుచున్నామము సేయుదులే దలచుచు పోతు పోతులే దలచుచు బొత్తు పోతులే కరుణా జలధే दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे సుకృతములపదిందులే సుకృతములపదిందులే నీ ప్రకృతిని తెలిసేగదురే ప్రకృతిని తెలిసేగదురే కరుణా జలధే दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे मनसारक पूजिंतुदे मनसारक पूजिंतुदे माटी माटिकी योजिल्तुरे माटी माटिकी योजिल्तुरे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे నిన్ను కనులను కనకోరుదురే నిన్ను కనులను కనకోరుదురే నవనిధుల బిన సుఖమును కోరరే నవనిధుల బిన సుఖమును కోరరే కరుణా జలధే दाशरथे दाशरथे भागवत प्रह्लाद हित राम भागवत प्रह्लाद हित राम भावुक त्यागराजनुत भावुक त्यागराजनुत करुणा जलधे दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे दाशरथे कमनीयन सुगुणनिधे करुणा जलधे
Aarathi Nair. Aarathi Nair, raised in Bangalore, has been learning Kuchipudi art form from age 12 under Guru Deepa Narayanan Sashindran, Kuchipudi Parampara Foundation Trust, Bengaluru, and holds diploma in Kuchipudi from Reva University. She was also initiated into Bharatanatyam and underwent training under late Guru Shyama Prakash and is currently pursuing Masters in Performing Arts from Bangalore University. She is also an upcoming actor in Malayalam and Kannada movie industry, having movie releases under renowned banners. She will be performing for us Ramaa in the verses of Saint Annamaya, where he describes the traits of Lord Rama's demeanor, valor and devotion, him being the incarnation of Lord Venkateshwara. In pure musical lyrics set in Ragamalika, Aditalam, music set by Shweta Prasad and choreography Guru Deepa Narayanan Sashindran.
Ramaya Ramabhadraya
tarikita takatinda tam, ta ta chindu ding, ta ta chindu tum, ta ta chindu tam, tarikita takatinda tam, ta ta chindu tam, tarikita takatinda ding, ta ta chindu ding, tarikita takatinda tam, tarikita takatinda ding, tarikita takatinda tum, tarikita takatinda tam, tarikita tinda ding, tarikita tinda tum, tarikita tinda, tarikita tinda, tarikita tinda, tarikita tinda, tinda 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 ta ta di di tum tum nam nam 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 ta di tum nam ta di ta chum ta di tarikita tagadam kita tagadaka chum taka chum ta dim tarikita tagada dim tarikita tagadam kita tagadari kita ta chum ta dim tarikita tagada dim tarikita tagada dim tarikita tagadam
Ramam Parampara Thamam Surasava Bhaumam Hajekam Ramam Devara Shamam 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 Sita Vanita Sametam Sita Vanita Sametam Spita Vanara Balavratam 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 Puta Kausalya Sanjatam Puta Kausalya Sanjatam Puta Kausalya Sanjatam Bina Bina Mauni Vidyodam Puta Kausalya Sanjatam Bina Bina Mauni Vidyodam Puta Kausalya Sanjatam Bina Bina Mauni Vidyodam Ramam Devara Shamam Parampara Thamam Surasava Bhaumam Hajekam Ramam Devara Shamam Pavanam Bharat Narayanan